name is Amber Thatcher, and here's today's slice. Welcome back to my channel. I got accepted into the Disney College program today, and I am so excited. Today I'm doing my third video in my three-part series. If you're sitting there thinking,
Amber, third video, three-part series, what are you talking about? I haven't heard anything about this.
then you, my friend, are at the end of my series. If you are interested in going back and watching the other ones, here's a link for my first video. That one is all about the initial application, and that one is the first one that you should watch. And here's a link to my second video. That's the one all about the web-based interview. That's the one you should watch after the initial application and before this current one that you're watching. If you're like,
Amber, I've already seen those other two videos. Please stop talking and get on with this video.
then my friend, you're in luck, because that's what I'm gonna do. So, like the other videos, I'm going to focus on what the phone interview is like, and then I'm gonna give you some tips and tricks. This first section honestly isn't gonna take that long because the phone interview is what it sounds like. It's an interview. Over the phone. Well, so you will get a call, and you will pick up and you will say,
Hi.
and they will say,
Hello, is this Amber Thatcher?
and you will say,
Why, yes it is.
and they will say,
Hi, my name is blah blah and I'm calling with the Disney College program for your phone interview. Is this still a good time?
and you'll say,
Yes, it is a good time. Thank you so much for asking, blah, blah, blah.
and then they'll start into your phone interview. It is anywhere between 12 minutes to 45 minutes. It does not matter what the length is. I have seen people who have gotten in and had a 12-minute phone interview. People who haven't gotten in and had a 12-minute phone interview. I've seen people who have gotten in with a 45-minute phone interview and who haven't gotten in with a 45-minute phone interview. If you are interested about my process, you can click on this link. I know, a third link, it's crazy. And that will tell you all about my full application process. Mine was, I believe, around 32, 33, something like that, minutes. And I got into the program. Yay! So the first section of the phone interview will be all about making sure your information is correct. So they will double check with you about your name, if it's still a good time for them to call. They'll double check your preferences. So is it true that you want Walt Disney World only? Is it true that you only can do Fall Advantage or can only do Fall? And then they will check with you on your roles, and they'll say, I see that you have high interest in blah, 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 blah. Is that still true? This is the time where you can say,
I actually put low interest in this, but would like to change it to high.
or,
I actually put high interest or low interest in this and would like to change it to no. I'm no longer interested in that role.
this won't affect anything, but it will affect what they consider you for. So this is really important. If you made a mistake on your application, this is the time to fix it. After that, they're going to do some basic questions for you. So they're gonna talk about having a roommate.
Have you had a roommate before? What was a bad experience you had with a roommate? Can you tell me about it? How did you fix it?
They will ask questions like,
Why do you want to do the Disney College program? Why this internship over another internship? What is something you admire about the company?
after that section is when they move on to the role-specific questions. This is where they ask questions like,
A kid came up to your ride, but he's too short to ride it. What do you tell them?
that would be an attractions one. They could also say,
As you might know, under the attractions role umbrella is parking. You could possibly be parking. Would you be able to do that?
and you say,
I honestly am not interested in that, or yes, I would be able to do that, and I would love that role, or yes, I could do this, but if I were placed in attractions, I would love to be placed at blank.
because they do write those things down. They could also say,
I see you put interest in custodial. What drew you to that role?
if you put interest in character attendant, they could give you a question such as,
Let's say you're working with my boss, Mickey Mouse, and he needed to take a break. What would you tell all the people in line?
and you could say,
I would tell them Mickey needs to
And then after that, they will say,
Thank you so much for your time. I'm glad we got you this phone interview.
and they'll tell you when you'll hear back by latest, and they'll ask if you have any questions. And this is where you can ask any questions you have about the process. I asked, how did you get your start with Disney? And I also asked when we might know more about these seminar offerings. That was more my quarter specific because they did get rid of the collegiate courses, and so I was just curious about that. There are a bunch of questions you could ask them. Think about it. I did a personal and a question that I just plain had because I feel like the personal one showed them that I was really interested. So that's how the phone interview goes. Let's quickly go into the tips that I have because I have a lot of tips for the phone interview. My first tip is make yourself notes. You don't have to do this. You do not have to follow any of these tips. But I do want to say that my notes really helped me. I didn't look at them very often, but it helped knowing they would be here. So these are my notes. I don't know if you can see them. I just did 3 pages and I gave myself kind of some like smile, some like be happy tips at the top, just to remind myself to smile. And I wrote down things like why I was qualified for my top 3 roles. I wrote down the dates. I wrote down some of the skills that I've acquired, and I wrote down some of the big questions that I found online, like why do you want to do the DCP, and what are you most looking forward to in completing the program, and what does it mean to be a Disney cast member? What are you most looking forward to? What does Disney mean to you? What can you offer the company? Tell me about a magical moment you've had, blah, blah, blah. I also added some role-specific questions for my high-specific roles. And then I also put on here my strengths and weaknesses so I wasn't floundering to figure out what I should tell them. So I would say it's nice to have notes. You can also have it on your computer. You can have sticky notes, blah, blah, blah. Whatever you want. Blah, blah, blah. Anyways. My next tip would be remember that they can call 30 minutes before or after your time. So I would give yourself 45 minutes before your time, or at least 30 before your scheduled time. Give yourself that time to prepare and have your phone ready. My interviewer, her name was Maria. Shout out to Maria, you're awesome. She called 15 minutes later, or about 20 minutes later, because they were running really behind that day. So if they don't call at your time, don't freak out, just stay by the phone. That also brings me to, it's possible that they can't call you if you have your unknown numbers blocked. So make sure you go into your settings and make sure you can allow unknown numbers to come through, because it will probably come through as an unknown number. Also make sure you're somewhere quiet. You don't want noise in the background. You don't want to have to stop and say,
Oh, I'm sorry, there's noise, I can't hear you.
You can ask them to repeat something. If you didn't quite get the question, you can say,
I'm so sorry, Maria, but would you mind repeating that question for me?
you can also ask for more time. You can say,
That's a really good question, Maria. Let me think about that.
and then take a breath and then go for it. I think it's really important and really personal to use their name. I think it's nice to use it a couple times throughout the interview process, as well as using it at the end and thanking them, saying,
Thank you so much for your time, Maria. I hope you have a great day.
I think it's a good idea to look over all the possible questions that I hopefully will have linked down below, just to kind of, you don't need to go through and answer all of them, but it gives you an idea of what to be thinking about to be prepared for your interview. Make sure you're professional. Don't use yeah or no. Use yes, use no, use please and thank you. Don't use abbreviations. I mean, you can say don't, not do not. But don't use those like sup. Don't answer the phone.
What's up? It's Amber.
Don't answer like,
Hello, what's going down? What's diggity? It's Amber here.
no, be professional. And then the next tip is to dress professionally. You honestly don't have to do this, but dress however is gonna make you comfortable. I personally wanted to look like I was going into an interview in person. I know some people who wore one of their Lucky Disney shirts, and that made them feel good during the interview. During the interview, you wanna make sure you're smiling, and you wanna act like you are in an in-person interview, because that will provide the best results possible. I would do a mock interview, maybe give someone a variety of questions and say ask a few of these, and give yourself that practice. Have them call you, practice answering it maturely and professionally. Have the entire phone call be a practice for your phone interview. Make sure you smile, you take a deep breath, and you don't talk too fast. You want to make sure they understand everything you're saying. If you talk too fast and they can't really tell what you're saying because you're just so excited and you really want to talk to them and you really want to get through the rest of the interview because you are really uncomfortable and you don't want to be talking to people on the phone, they're not going to understand what you're saying. So you need to make sure you take your time. You want to try to leave out vocal fillers such as and well. You want to try to leave those out. Instead, one of my biggest tips is if you feel a vocal filler coming on, you feel like you're about to say or take a minute, don't speak, breathe in, and then continue. I use this in my communications classes constantly. This is one of the biggest tips that has helped me. It stops me from using Instead, take a beat. And lastly, and this one is the most important, don't think about this like an interview. Don't go into this so nervous and scared. This is a time for them to figure out where to place you. You're having a conversation with someone who loves Disney as much as you do, and they're just trying to figure out where you'll be best placed. Yes, it's true you can have your phone interview and not get in, but a nice way to think about it is you're almost there. You're right on the cusp of getting in, and now it's all about placement. Now they just need to ask you questions to figure out where you will be best placed. That's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can give, because going in with that mindset made me so much less nervous. If you're feeling nervous up to your phone interview, that's okay. I personally sat in my chair for half an hour with my headphones in, everything ready, and I played Disney music until the minute she called, because when she called, it stopped my music. So I was listening to Disney music and getting in the mood right until she called. And then when she called, all my worries disappeared. Then it was just a conversation. I was no longer nervous. I blacked out a little bit, not sure what all of my questions were, but I answered them. So that's basically all I have for you today. If you have any more questions or comments or anything, please leave them down below and I will answer them. I hope you have enjoyed this series, and I hope you will continue watching more videos. And with that being said, I'll catch you next time. Good enough.